Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crossover Podcast. I'm Ben Marsico, and today I want to do a music review, an album review for Mac Miller's Baloonerism. So this is an album that dropped last Friday, posthumous release from Mac Miller's estate, and it's a project that fans have been eagerly awaiting for some time now. It was created, for people who are unfamiliar, it was created around the same time that he made Watching Movies with the Sound Off and Faces. It's widely considered to be a very transformational period in Mac's life, and especially as an artist. He was rising to stardom as an artist and as a rapper. This is also a time where he honed in on his sound and he evolved immensely as an artist. Fans kind of saw more of an introspective, dark side to his subject matter in his songs, and it was a lot more maturity as an artist, going away from the party rap sounds of Blue Slide Park and Kids and maturing into darker, grittier sounds. People that know me well know that I'm a big fan of Mac Miller's music. I kind of fell in love with him during quarantine when I first discovered swimming and the Divine Feminine, and his music is just very comforting to me. The instrumentals are great. They're very soothing, and his voice and his lyrics just have some way of telling you, even in your worst days, that you're not alone and everything is going to be okay. And that's really why I love Mac. I think he's a phenomenal artist. And now to get to Baloonerism, which I think is a great project, but it is kind of a difficult listening experience, knowing what we know about the nature of his passing and his struggles with addiction and mental health, and his, especially on this album, his vulnerability and his depth in songwriting really stands out, because he was 22 years old when he recorded this album, and there's still not many projects that I think can kind of compare in terms of the soundscapes and the subject matter and the depth that he goes into on this album. The production, the lyricism, the wittiness, the combination of that is really what makes this album special. And for anyone that's a fan of Max, you know that he was on just an upward trajectory. He was not anywhere near his peak musically when he released Swimming. He was a true artist through and through, and that's what makes his passing and listening to his posthumous music so difficult for me, because it makes me sad as someone who loves music that we lost such a bright light in the music world. Now moving on to the central themes of Baloonerism, it's death, mortality, the afterlife, and Mac really dives into these topics with a sense of clarity and almost a sense of acceptance that's kind of chilling as a listener, because at age 22, he had kind of completely come to terms with his fate and fully aware that his time on earth might be shorter than it should be. Some of his lyrics foreshadow the circumstances of his death, and some moments, like I kind of said, are just hard to sit with, knowing what we now know about his passing. One that kind of stuck out to me was on the track Rick's Piano, which is a standout. I really enjoyed that one, where he says, "If I die young, promise to smile at my funeral." Mac also touches on growing up, loss of innocence, maturing, and his struggles with the newfound superstardom, with grappling with that reality and drugs and mental health. So this is really a wide array of topics that he delves into, and he touches on them. And it's there's a beauty in it, because we know that he's not really just rapping about these superficially. We know that these are topics that are real to Mac, and he was exploring them in such a raw and genuine way. So we kind of get a glimpse into his inner world, and that's why so many listeners loved him, because he was so real and honest with his listeners, and it was something that people could really resonate with. So musically, Baloonerism is an extension of that Faces, watching movies with the sound off, Good AM sound. A lot of these tracks sound like they could have been on one of those 3 projects I just listed. But here, I mean, he has production on every track. He's really in his producer bag here. You get live instruments blended with gritty drums and lush, kind of ethereal, experimental production, which is a really unique soundscape that works well for Mac, especially with his style around the time. This is probably my personal favorite era of Mac's because I feel like the hazy, spaced out feeling that I get on the production and just the vibe of these tracks is something that I really enjoy. It's music that I hate to just use this term because it's very general, but it's just a vibe, and I really enjoy a lot of the sounds on this project. It's a really good album, and I really did enjoy it. So looking more into the track list, every song on this hits. I don't really think there's a miss. Whether you're looking for an upbeat, jazzier type of track, you have that in $5 Pony Rides, which also has a really nice Thundercat bass line on that, or some more dreamy, hazy tracks like Miss Deborah Downer, Stoned, or Manakins. There's kind of something for everyone, even if you're not a Mac fan. This album's raw honesty with its songwriting compared to the beautiful layered production makes this a really good listen. It pulls you into Mac's world, and it really lets you see who he is, not only as an artist, but as a person, and struggling with these things that he's struggling with: mortality, drugs, dealing with being a superstar and not being used to that. At age 22, some of my favorite songs on here are Stoned, Shangri-La, Funny Papers, Rick's Piano. I can go on. The list goes on. Miss Deborah Downer is another one. I really like this album. I think there's a lot to come back to. It's a very emotional album. Like I said, it's a really raw and honest album. But when it comes to production here, I think it's ahead of its time. When it comes to witty, dark, sometimes funny, honest songwriting, this is a phenomenal project for that too. And really, Baloonerism is just a perfect way to cap off his discography. If this is his last posthumous release, I think that would be completely fine. And his estate has handled his passing just so well, because usually when rappers die, you just see albums being put out for money grabs, trying to milk any last dollar they can get out of the artist. But this is really just a celebration of his artistry, his growth, and it's a reminder of the brilliant artist that we lost. I think Mac really left us, his fans, with an album it's a beautiful farewell to somebody who meant so much to so many people around the world. I would give this album somewhere in the range of an 8.4 to an 8.6. I think it's really, like I said, it's really strong. If you're at all a fan of Mac Miller, definitely tune into this. And if you aren't, still tune into it, because I think it can make you a fan of his. It's something really unique here. I don't think that the void that's been left in his passing has been filled. I don't think there's really another artist like him when it comes to not only his ability to rap technically, but his ability as a producer, his ability as a musician, his ear for music. I think Mac is just a really unique talent that was lost, and this album is a beautiful farewell to Mac as an artist. So if you listen to this, let me know what your thoughts are. If you liked it, what were your favorite tracks? If you didn't like it, I wonder why, because this is a really, really good album. And honestly, I can see this still being in my top 5 rap albums, or even albums of the top 5 albums of the year by year's end, because it's a really good project. Check it out, and see you guys in the next video.